Jim, she's not in the bathroom. She left the club. Left without me? Why? What is the matter? Why didn't she tell me? Where has she gone? Is she okay? I still did not understand. Let's head to the end of the bar where there is some privacy. I followed Dee to the quieter corner. Near the end of the bar. Dee looked me in the eyes. Jim, Linda is deeply concerned about you and the children, but she is spending tonight with Mark. I stood there, stunned, as my world appeared to crumble. My mind was filled with Linda memories. Linda is at the top of the stairs dressed in a beautiful blue dress. Linda attended dinner. Linda is at the club. Linda is sharing wings with me. Linda is in Mark's arms. Anger welled up within me, so on what was supposed to be our special night, she went off with a well-known athlete. I frowned at Dee and muttered the words. Jim. She has not abandoned you. She will return home to you tomorrow, and you will share many more special moments together. She lacked the courage to tell me directly that she was leaving me. She had just slipped out the back door. Jim, pay attention. She has not left you. So if she hasn't left me, where is she? She's certainly not with me right now, is she? My voice became louder and I didn't care who heard it. Please calm down. Everyone is staring at you. Listen, I understand how difficult this is for you, but it is only for tonight. Linda, as we all know, recognizes that you are the only person for her, and she will always value you. You are the good guy. Yeah, and we all know what happens to the good guy, don't we? Jim, it's not like that. You're overreacting to this situation. It's just tonight. Then she will return to you tomorrow, and everything will be as it was before. I gave a small laugh. If she truly believed that, nothing I said would make a difference. So, friend, what was your role in all of this? You didn't really need to use the restroom, did you? My wife gave you the signal, correct? She told you to stall me and keep me out of the way so she and the other guy could escape. Yes, she asked me to do that so you wouldn't be embarrassed by making a scene in front of our friends. She also asked me to remind you that she deeply cares about you, and will always be there for you. Yes, I would remember how much she cared for me tonight for a long time. She didn't want me to feel embarrassed about walking away from our friends to spend the night with a jock. I don't. Suppose it occurred to you, friend, to remind her that we have a strong friendship, which she may lose over this. Dell locked eyes with me. No, it won't be because I believe she won't let you discuss this. You are too great a man for that to happen. I told her how fortunate she was. She is fortunate because the man whom every woman in the room desired also desired her. But she's even luckier to have a husband who can get over his hurt feelings and not make this a bigger deal than it should be. You know she'll go to any length to make amends. What if there's no way of making amends? What if there is no way to solve this? Jim, I understand how much you care about Linda and she cares about you. This does not need to be a major issue. It's only one night. In comparison to previous years, this was a one-time event. They also love you, share. It's not a big deal until you make it so. I'm confident she'll return to you and you'll be fine eventually. Dee spoke softly, but with confidence. It took everything I had not to grab the foolish woman and shake her until her teeth rattled from saying such nonsense. If she truly believed that, she had to be living in an alternate reality. So if you had chosen Dave as your preferred, you would have done the same thing. Yes, I would. She threw her response in my direction. Does Dave know that? No, and he doesn't need to because I doubt it will ever happen. She whispered softly. Perhaps I should tell him, Jim, please don't. Do not think that way. I understand you're hurting. But that won't help. Please return to the table. Allow us to take your mind off it for a while. You haven't danced with me once all night, you know. She smiled warmly at me. I wanted to dance with my partner, but thanks to you and her and the misunderstanding, that doesn't appear to be an option anymore, does it? I turned away from D and returned to our table. When I returned, the conversation at the table came to a sudden halt and the story was told through downcast eyes. My wife and I had a miscommunication and all of our friends knew it. Jim, will you be okay? Dave asked hesitantly after he seated D. I wanted to tell him what D had said and asked if he was okay, but I couldn't get the words out. I suppose I hadn't gotten over being the good guy yet. I'd have to work on that. It depends on what you mean by okay. There were a few nervous giggles. Yeah, that was a difficult situation, but you two are going to figure it out. Aren't you? You aren't going to let this get between you and Linda, are you? I don't understand why I shouldn't. I replied coldly. There was a gasp around the table. Why are you also surprised? I continued. We all know how we feel about betrayal once and for all. We established that long ago. But Jim, it's Mark Lavalier who has interposed. So what? I do not care who spends time with her. If it isn't me, then that's it. Jim, what about your children? We all know how much you care about them and how much they depend on you. Think about them before you do anything. Jane's children were approximately the same age as mine and were best friends. Do you mean that? My wife is thinking about them right now? That's why you hired a babysitter. You didn't want to worry about your children. I believe Dean intended it to be funny. It fell as flat as it deserved. Come on, Jim. It's only one night. She will never have another opportunity like this. You would not divorce Linda in one night. Why not? I glared at her and an uncomfortable silence ensued. February can be challenging, BTB. To be honest, I do not believe that would bring me joy. I doubt I'll ever experience happiness again. I'm going to my room. I'd like to say it was a pleasure meeting you, but I can't find the words. I walked a block and a half to the hotel, feeling more alone than I had ever been in my life. I went up to my room first, then returned downstairs and stopped at the front desk. The attractive young woman in her early 20s asked if she could help me. How many floors does this hotel have? I inquired. I must have appeared unwell. She asked if I was okay and if there was anything wrong with my room. She seemed relieved when I mentioned it was a personal matter. She informed me that there are 15 levels, with the highest level being the 16th and no 13th level. Would it be possible to get a room on the 16th floor? She happily informed me that rooms were available. I paid in cash under the name John Smith. My plan was to take a dive. Linda would be perfectly capable of caring for the children. Perhaps she can find happiness with Mark and live a good life. Before I could get to the elevator, I heard a female voice waiting for me. It was Dee. What could she possibly want right now? They sent me after you to make sure you were okay. You looked depressed back there. I can't imagine why my wife is cheating on me right now. My so-called friends think it's perfectly fine. I can only think of one way out. Tears streamed down my face. She got in the elevator with me. Dave says you're acting like a baby and should get over it. But I need to keep an eye on you until Linda returns or she'll be upset. Are you heading home? I'm going to see my Aunt Tucker if you're curious, I said as we exited the elevator. In only a few steps, I reached the door. I swiped the card, opened it, and attempted to keep Dee outside. However, she managed to get her leg wedged in the door. So I let go. So what happens if she is a witness or even a key figure in an unexpected event? I walked over to the bed and arranged the lingerie Linda had left on the bed in our room. I believe it is meant to convey a message. It speaks volumes. Dee looked at me with concern in her eyes. What exactly are you talking about, Jim? Hasn't your Aunt Tucker encountered something unexpected? I studied her face as the color faded. No, Jim, whatever you're thinking, just stop right now. Linda would not approve of any rash decisions. Just sleep on it and everything will be fine tomorrow. You will see. As I approached the sliding door, I stated that each moment felt worse than the one before. In 5 minutes, I'll be a trembling puddle on the floor, lamenting my existence. I looked over the balcony railing. It is a long way down. I wondered if I'd die along the way. Dee grabbed my arm and shouted, "No, Jim, you can't do this. Please come back inside." She was pulling with all of her strength. Anything? What about bringing my wife back right now? Can you do that? I did not think so. You are equally at fault as she is. So I despise you. I would love for you to join me this fall. How about you? You know what? I was furious. Okay, I understand. What? I will do it if you agree to come inside. Do what? I apologize. And it is my fault as well. I should have intervened, but I did not. If there is a way to fix this, I will take action. Dave, like you, needs to move on. I didn't notice her tears at first, but they continued to flow. Put on that lingerie and give me your phone. She stripped down to her underwear and donned the attractive set intended for my wife. I took a picture with her phone and sent it to Dave and Linda with no accompanying message. I will be back in a moment. Get comfortable on the bed. I left the room with her phone and walked down the hall. I called Dave and he answered quickly. He exclaimed, "Where are you?" I hesitated before responding. Dave, this is Jim. I'm calling to let you know that Dee is secure. She's with me. I plan to treat her similarly to how Mark treats Linda. Goodbye. I ended the call to avoid giving him the opportunity to yell at me. I turned off her phone and re-entered the room. Dee's face turned pale when she learned of Dave's approval. She appeared nervous but agreed to begin. I sat beside her on the bed, attempting to create a relaxed atmosphere. Although Dee was not as beautiful as Linda, I concentrated on her beauty with a touch of imagination. I gently pulled on the string of her lovely underwear, complimenting her appearance. My goal was not for personal satisfaction, but to provide Dee with an extraordinary experience. I want to make the encounter exciting for her, hoping it will be the most memorable moment of her life. She gently traced the bulge in my pants. Wow! It's larger than I expected. I've always wanted to have this experience. I leaned in for a gentle, passionate kiss, resting my hand on her bra-covered chest. I soon removed her clothes. I started exploring her with my mouth, focusing on her intimate areas. She cried out with delight several times as my skilled tongue guided her to incredible heights. We spent the rest of the night actively participating in various positions. Dee was used to a smaller size than mine. She had several climaxes in each position. I couldn't keep track, but it would have been a challenge. I had 2 less satisfying orgasms. I asked about her interest in trying anal. To my surprise, she admitted she had never done it before. She also allowed me to explore her in that way. Dee experienced an intense climax with my member in her rear and my fingers stimulating her most sensitive area. I released my third and final load. Inside her. I can't imagine Linda having better sex than this. You're extraordinary. However, it's important to remember that I'm not Mark Lavalier. I couldn't deny Linda had been on my mind, but I knew I needed to move on. I believe Dave had attempted to contact me by calling my phone, Dee's phone, and even knocking on the door of the hotel room registered in my name. I suspected he might have even broken into my house. As the sun started to rise, I told Dee that I was leaving. Now you can tell Linda she saved my life, I said. Her smile, while not entirely genuine, revealed her concern about what was to come while Dee was in the shower. I quietly went downstairs and grabbed my bag. I had no idea where Dave was, but I planned to avoid him. I took the stairs to the lobby and approached the front desk quietly. The attractive blonde was still working there. What time do you finish work? She smiled. I'll probably leave after. I clock out at 7. I left a note containing my address and phone number. I'm hoping she'll come visit. I am not just teasing you. You're extremely attractive. I'll be there, so look out for me. She winked and I grinned in return. Despite the pain I was experiencing, I knew my coping mechanism was not ideal, but I would keep trying. I looked around the parking lot, spotting my car. Fortunately, Dave wasn't around. I quickly got into my car and called the police to file a restraining order against Dave. He might be furious with me right now. I parked in a quiet cul-de-sac near my house. I carefully moved through my neighbor's yard, keeping a low profile and peeking through the hedges to inspect the house. It appeared deserted and quiet. Then a car slowly passed by my driveway. It was Dave's car. I now knew where he was. Once he was out of sight, I cautiously entered my back door, leaving the lights off. It appeared that no one had broken in, so I went up stairs and got my gun. As I looked at my gun, I considered going to find Dave, but I won't go into detail. I don't know where he lives, and I'm willing to bet it's a secret that would leave Emma and Tommy without parents. Then I considered another option. Finally, it's over. I imagined Linda opening the front door to discover my lifeless body. That would definitely make a statement. I sat at the bottom of the stairs holding the gun in my hand, thinking about my next move. I knew I could handle it, but what if she takes the children first? No. Maybe I can go out later and finish it somewhere that has an impact. For example, at Morrison's rear entrance. For the time being, I just sat and tried not to think about anything. I wouldn't be occupying the master bedroom anymore, so I set up the pull-out sofa bed in the basement. This would be my new home until I leave this one. The door's exterior latch was moved to the interior to allow me to maintain privacy. Initially, I had to contaminate our marital bed with the essence of another woman. Linda is no longer my spouse, only the mother of my children. I still adore her in that regard, and she would never betray them in the same way that I had. I set my alarm for a 2-hour nap in the basement, locking the door and keeping my weapon nearby. I needed to get some rest because tomorrow was going to be a long and challenging day. I was able to fall asleep, but not as much as I had hoped. My mind was racing with worries, and sleep deprivation was the latest addition to the list. I sat in my once joyful living room looking forward to my meeting with darn it. What was her name? Yes, Jennifer. Around 8 a.m., I turned back on my phone to check for missed calls and text messages, none from my wife, several from Dave. I received a text message from an unknown number while on my way, sent 15 minutes ago. Just then a car entered the driveway. Fortunately, it wasn't Dave's. Jenna stepped outside, dressed casually. As she approached, I opened the front door with a smile. As she approached the door, I pulled her into a kiss to relieve the tension. I am glad you made it, Jenna. She smiled, holding my hand and admiring my wedding ring. Are you married? Well, Jenna, the situation is quite complex, but let me explain it to you in a more straightforward manner. The answer is yes, and our relationship has evolved into a more open one. We had a discussion over some drinks. Jenna is a truly kind person, but her youth makes her unsuitable for anything more than a fleeting moment. Jenna, I want to be open with you because I value you, and I do not want to cause you any problems. I expect this to be a one-time occurrence. I'm using this as retaliation against my spouse. If you prefer to leave, I understand. I told her my story, and she was deeply moved. It's amazing how a girl who barely knows me can be more concerned about my feelings than my own life. Is this the way into the master bedroom? She inquired as she ascended the stairs, realizing the purpose of my plans. You may use me however you see fit. It'll be my pleasure. She began to undress slowly, and I noticed my heart racing. I too removed my clothes, admiring her beauty as she crawled onto the bed. You're so captivating. I wish I weren't 15 years older than you. She smiled at me, took my hand, and brought it to her mouth. Her lips embraced my fingers, and I could sense her warmth and passion. I understand you said this was a one-time encounter, but we could have a strictly sexual relationship until you find someone special. Her words caused shivers down my spine. She led me to the bed, and we spent hours exploring each other's bodies in various positions. Our passion grew with each touch, and we were soon both gasping for air, exhausted by our intimate moments. As we lay there panting, she looked into my eyes and said, "Wow, that's all I can say." Wow, are you attempting to relieve some tension? To be honest, I did this last night. You piqued my interest, and I'm trying to distract myself. I hoped Linda would come in with us. You see? We are spending time together in our bedroom. Do you want to stay for the grand finale? I can make us breakfast or dinner, depending on your preference. I work overnight, so dinner would be ideal. She winked. That sounds good, but if Linda comes home and you need to leave, you can go to the basement where I now live or simply take off. I gave you my phone number. When I started cooking, I heard a car pull into the driveway. The door opened. Jim? Jim? I'm home. She sounded exactly like she always did when she returned home from running errands. She closed the front door and turned on the light. I turned to face her. She looked exactly the same. The blue dress had the same impact on her as it had the night before. Her dark hair flowed down her back in the same way. Her head poised, shoulder set, face, and finger rings were all the same as before. The night before. It appeared that nothing had changed at all, as if she hadn't spent the entire night and morning betraying me with someone cruel. That shouldn't be possible, I reasoned. There should be a noticeable difference. Something that suggested what she had done. There was at least a hint of shame on her face. There wasn't any. It's still only me. She smiled gently as she said, "The same old me, as always." Of course, she knew what I was thinking. There is nothing different. Nothing has changed. My love for you remains the same as it was yesterday. If that's the case, I suppose we never had what I thought we did. Linda's face fell. Jim and honey. She appeared worried. Have you packed my lingerie for me? I thought I'd wear them tonight to reconnect. I gave them away. I spoke in the calmest voice she'd ever heard. When you turn your phone back on, you'll see where it went. Jim, I purchased them specifically to share with you. I hope to do it tonight to begin making up for. I reserved the hotel room. With the intention of sharing it with you, and we both know what happened, correct? Her gaze dropped to the floor. I tried to keep my emotions under control once more. Has it met your expectations? The question remained in the air. Linda looked me in the eyes. Her face concerned. Jim, I understand you have questions. We need to talk about them, and I'll give you accurate and complete answers. But are you certain you want to hear that? I will be honest with you. But I do not want to hurt you. Isn't it too late to consider my feelings? Linda grimaced. I understand, but I'm concerned that sharing the details of what happened will cause you more pain, making it more difficult for us to move forward and continue our relationship. Can't we focus on the future? We cannot let a single incident define our entire lives. That is another factor you should have considered last night, I responded. I pointed to a delicate crystal vase Linda cherished, which was always on our mantelpiece. How many times would I have to shatter that vase against the fireplace for it to break? What would it take for you to move past my actions? Even if there was a way to repair it or put it back together, it will never be the same, right? Jim, you understand how much I value that vase. But I can manage without it. Our marriage, the bond we've built together for nearly a decade, is far more valuable and captivating than that vase. Our love is strong and long lasting, and I can't imagine life without it. I understand you are in pain, and I need to make amends. I will do whatever it takes. But most importantly, I know you care enough to eventually overcome your pain and be okay. Until last night, I believed you would never disappoint me. Linda retreated to her chair. So, did the time you spent with Mark meet your expectations? Mark is not a bad person. He's a considerate gentleman. I believe you would admire him if the circumstances were different. He is thoughtless. Any so-called man who approaches a woman who is already with someone else, regardless of whether she is married or attached, and takes her away from him, brings her home and spends time with her simply because he can, is thoughtless. Jim, Mark did not take me away from you. He couldn't unless he took you away from me. Where were you last night? Okay, fair enough, he spent the night with me. But I'm with you now, and I will be with you for the rest of my life. Yeah, you're here with me now because Thoughtless got his way and he's done with you. No, you are wrong. I am here because I love you, because I am your wife. This is our shared home. Okay, so if someone had asked you to stay longer this afternoon for a more intimate moment, where would you be now? Linda at least had the decency to blush. Okay, you are correct about that. But Mark was always kind and respectful to me during my time with him, and I wish you didn't use that language. So my feelings haven't mattered to you since that man approached you last night, right? So why should mine matter to you right now? I stood up and confronted her with these words. She recoiled, scared. I sat back down and attempted to regain my composure. Okay, let's try this again. Was everything as you expected? Yes, it was everything and more. Her gaze was both sympathetic and determined as she looked directly at me. I hope one night was worth sacrificing our marriage and causing our children grief. I will file for divorce as soon as possible. Linda appeared shocked. No, you cannot do this. Our marriage is too strong. What about the children? How about Emma and Tommy? Don't you love them? Yes, I love them. You are fully aware of this. In fact, are you counting on it? Were they one of your fallback options? In case I was feeling as upset as I am right now, you never considered their well-being last night. Even now, have you considered how and where they are at noon when we were supposed to pick them up hours earlier? Her eyes widened and welled with tears. Honey, I will go get them right away. I apologize for being late, Jim. I promise I will not use our children as bargaining chips. You will take a shower before picking them up. I had already showered before coming home. I would never. No, I do not. And I do not want Emma and Tommy to smell anything inappropriate on you. Linda appeared surprised by his outburst. Okay, Jim. I'll take another shower. I will do whatever it takes to get past this. Thank you, Jim. Think about Emma and Tommy. Consider how it may affect them. He snapped back at her. You mean like last night when you were thinking about what you were doing to them? No, you cannot say that. You can't hide behind them. She turned and cried as she climbed the stairs into the master bedroom. Whoa, what's happening here? I quickly turned to Jenna's side. I could barely hear her response, but I knew I needed to help her. Climbing the stairs quickly, I reached the bedroom door and called out Jenna. Come here. Jenna threw herself into my arms as Linda cried out in the distance. I told Jenna to take the dinner I prepared and go to the basement, locking the door behind her. I assured her that I would join her shortly as she covered her face with her hands and cried. Linda choked out a question. What's happening? Why is a naked girl in our bed? Why are the sheets soaking? She burst into loud sobs after waiting for her to calm down a little. She asked, how could you cheat on me? I knew she expected an answer, but I interpreted it as a rhetorical question. Why is your gun in your waistband? Will you hurt us? I explained that I was going to hurt both of us, but that thought quickly faded. I thought of Emma and Tommy. I absolutely adore them. I have to try to spare them any pain caused by you. Linda was shocked. I had no idea this would hurt you so much. I'll do anything to get us back to where we were. Wow, that was intense, I exclaimed, trying to remain calm. I cannot believe we are actually going to do this, I said, trying to sound optimistic. We can't return to the way things were before you made a major mistake. And now we have to ensure that this family stays together. So take a shower and go get the kids. And when you return, we can get to work on fixing things. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. Our bedroom? She asked, her voice trembling. No, I'm currently moving to the guest room, I replied firmly as she exited the room. She whispered, this is not over. I turned to Jenna, who was staring at me with wide eyes. Did I do well? She inquired, appearing nervous. I felt bad about putting her through that. I'm sorry I did that. I said quietly, I owe you one. I will make it up to you. I sent her up to find her mother. It was not the proper thing to do. I apologize. Jenna's face lit up with a smile. So I did well? Then she inquired, her eyes sparkling. I nodded. Great. And I'm glad you owe me. My reward is another outing together. I smiled for the first time since the previous night. Listen, you are welcome to stay here, but the ex and I will most likely be discussing things for some time. As I previously stated, you have my phone number and I am always happy to talk to you. Jenna gave me a warm kiss before gathering her belongings and departing. I didn't want to see her leave, but it was for the best. I think I could easily become attached to her. Perhaps I should think carefully about that relationship. I don't want to hurt her or myself. Linda returned with Emma and Tommy, who eagerly jumped into my arms, making me feel loved again. It had been a long time since I had hugged them. Linda smiled as if she expected the kids to help us get back on track. In my mind, there was a new standard. Linda and I agreed to talk After the kids went to bed, so tell me about this girl. Linda spoke hesitantly. Jenna is a nice girl. Who works at the hotel. I needed to be distracted and she wanted me to. Linda shakes her head. I could never have imagined this. Ditto. It hurts a lot. I suppose I deserve that. I hadn't realized how painful it could be, but now we're even and things can return to normal. No, normal is no more. This was not tit for that. This is how it will be from now on. You should turn your phone back on. I did when I left to pick up the kids. I'm a little puzzled. I have 20 missed calls and a ton of texts that I have yet to read. Why is Dave trying to contact me so urgently? I also have one text from you that I haven't looked at. I can't do this right now. When you left last night, my so-called friends tried to persuade me that I was unreasonable and wanting to divorce you after only one night. They're the same people who think cheating is a one-time offense, but since you were the one who cheated, it was fine. Dave even described me as a crybaby and told me to get over it. So I left the club and walked alone to my hotel. I booked a room on the 15th floor with a different name. I planned to jump off the building. Linda let out a loud gasp and began to cry. Thankfully, she found me just in time. She burst into the room and saw me about to jump. She grabbed me and begged me to stop. She claimed you would never forgive her and it was her fault for encouraging you. I do not agree, however. I believe you had plenty of opportunities to stop, but chose to continue. I blame you. My lifeless body on the street would be the ultimate price. She started crying harder, saying, "No, no, no." But she did stop me. She said she'd do anything if I came back inside. I told her to put on the lingerie you purchased. She did what? I asked her to dance with me. She seems to have always wanted to. I told her I'd call Dave and ask if she could stay to talk. But I sent you and Dave a picture of her in her underwear and called to inform him that I was about to dance with Dee. Then I hung up. Linda gasped several times throughout the story. And now has large, shocked eyes. I spent the night with Dee while Dave looked for her. We had a wonderful time and she even introduced me to a new experience. She said I was the best she'd ever had and couldn't imagine anything better. I did not have an answer for her. Linda was sobbing. And I could feel her pain and sorrow as someone I cared deeply about. I assured her that the gun was for protection. At first, it was a difficult decision. When I held it in my hands, I considered doing something drastic, like hurting both of you, the stubborn man and the carefree woman. But this would have left the children without their parents and I couldn't stand the thought. So I let that idea go. Then I imagined you walking into the house and finding me gone with only a single message left behind. At the very least, the children would have one mother who tried to protect them, albeit from a distance. I cannot believe this is happening. Have I pushed you this far? I assumed you'd eventually get over it. Dee said you'd be upset for a few days and then everything would return to normal. How do we fix this? It's too late. We can't go back. We're done. I attempted to move on with the help of therapy, but it only worked temporarily when I was with someone else. When I'm alone, I revert back to feeling upset and hating my life. She wins at my words. She appeared scared. So what happens now? I looked her in the eyes determined. I will never look at her with loving eyes again. There are two choices. The first step is to move on and find someone new to raise our children with, risking being left behind by that person. The second option is my preference, but I doubt you will like it. We continue to be our children's loving parents. Live in the same house and treat each other with respect. We never have an intimate relationship. Again. Sleep in separate rooms while maintaining an open relationship in all other aspects until the children leave home. Then we parted ways. Oh my goodness, can this ever be fixed? What did I do? I really love you. I do not want to be with other men. I'd like to share a deep connection with you. You are my partner now and forever. One night transformed everything. Trust me, I should have been the one who paid the price. Just be grateful that you have me taking care of things. Is that all you really care about? I spoke with a bitter tone in my voice. I couldn't help but think about how she was willing to destroy everything and everyone she was supposed to care about. A knock on the door. I reached for my weapon only to find it at the ready. Who is it? Officer Adams of Metro Police. I put away my weapon. You may enter, but be aware that I have a firearm nearby, not a threat. Just being upfront. Thank you for the heads up. He paused before opening the door. I'm here to let you know that David Gavin's restraining order has been served. I told him about the gravity of violating the order and he said he would leave you alone. The officer left and I thanked him. Linda appeared on the verge of tears. You know, if he comes back, I will have to stop him. Linda's phone vibrated with a text message. She read it. Her face was filled with terror. Dave kicked me out. She's looking for somewhere to stay. This is getting out of control. Yesterday, it appeared that our group of friends was falling apart. I would have held Linda. She was comforted with gentle strokes and reassuring words. Today, she was alone and hurting. I pulled out my phone and called Heidi. If you want to stay with us, we have an extra room available. Linda was surprised to discover I was on the phone. What are you doing now? She can't come here. You just ended her marriage. You've just slept with her. Will you really turn your best friend away when she needs it the most? I figure that if she's here, I'll be able to have more fun when the kids are at school or later at night. You don't mind, right? It's only a temporary arrangement. Linda's hands shook as they approached her mouth and her eyes filled with tears. Her eyes were red and puffy. How did all of this happen in a single day? I can't continue like this. Don't worry, Linda. Things will improve over time. Linda thoughtfully set up a room for Dee in the unused bedroom upstairs. That evening, we slept in different beds, which was unusual for us. It was unsettling to be separated from Dee given how much I valued her presence in my life. It felt like I was separating myself from a treasured aspect of my life. We informed our kids that Dee would be staying with us temporarily. We also stated that we would not be sharing the same room during this time. We did not give a specific reason because they did not inquire further. Linda and I continued to carry out our parental responsibilities during breakfast. Although it was difficult to show limited physical affection while knowing it was only for appearances, I believe Linda found it more difficult. I went to work knowing that Linda and Dee had a lot to work out in their friendship. Linda now had someone to lean on. Someone who could listen and understand. In my ideal scenario, they would be able to support each other during this difficult time. The two would come to regret their encounter with a difficult person. If they were true best friends, I believe Dee would never share intimate moments with me again. At work, I received a message from Dave that contradicted the court order. Despite this, I wasn't particularly concerned about the messages in the text. He explained that he now understands why I was so upset about Linda's affair. He had never experienced that level of heartache before. Dave and I had similar thoughts about ending his or our lives. But in the end, he opted for a straightforward divorce. He admitted that he still resents me, but vowed not to contact me again. The next Saturday I had a date with Gina. We had a lovely dinner and danced together. Some people looked at me strangely because I had a 20-year-old girlfriend. We got home late and went into my basement bedroom. Linda must have already gone to bed. Gina was full of energy, so we spent the night doing fun activities. She shouted her excitement several times. Thankfully, we were 2 floors away from the children. Gina departed quietly in the middle of the night. On Sunday morning, I prepared a large breakfast for Emma and Tommy while smiling brightly. Linda, on the other hand, appeared to be in a bad mood and not trying to be brave. "Can we speak in the living room?" I asked. And she nodded in agreement. "You're not doing a great job of hiding it. You seem unhappy." I could not sleep all night. First, I was concerned about you staying out late and not knowing what was going on. Then you arrived home and went downstairs, leaving me unable to sleep. When I went to get a drink, I overheard Gina experiencing intense pleasure. She screamed with delight. I felt hurt and jealous. I can't pretend that everything is fine for the sake of our kids. I promised not to bring my dates home again. Gina lives with her parents. So if I accompany her, I will be provided with a room. Last night, I told her that we could only go out once a month. I do not want our relationship to be based solely on physical intimacy. Do you truly intend to continue down this path? We had a remarkable relationship. One for the history books. Can't we try to work it out? I can't stand the thought of you not being my partner. What can I do to help you understand? I really care about you. How can I show that I'm still the same person? This is the last time I'll address this issue. Please listen carefully. On a night meant for us as a married couple, you chose to focus on someone else. The pain and disillusionment I felt were profound. Your actions were selfish and irresponsible, affecting not only me, but also our children. I can't imagine ever overcoming this infidelity and restoring our marriage. The prospect of having intimacy with you again would only resurrect painful memories and comparisons to the other person. I understand you may disagree, but in my heart, I know the truth. They had the best marriage in history, which makes it even more heartbreaking that it could be jeopardized so easily. Still, it was just him, which was the problem. She bowed her head, defeated. The following Friday, Dee and Linda decided to go out to distract themselves from their problems. I was surprised when Linda decided to wear the blue dress again. She appeared stunning. My heart ached from longing. I suspected they were hoping to make me jealous. I did, but it wasn't enough. I spent the night watching over Emma and Tommy. We watched a movie and ate popcorn until about 9 p.m. when I put them in bed. I was surprised to learn that the girls arrived home at 10 o'clock. Was she introducing another man to make me jealous? It wouldn't make a difference because I no longer care. They entered through the front door, but Linda went straight upstairs, sobbing uncontrollably. I looked at Dee, who was looking down at her feet. What's happening? Why is Linda so distraught? We decided to return to Morrison's tonight in the hopes that Mark would make another appearance. To our delight, he did. He came over to our table and inquired about the whereabouts of our husbands. We told him that we were essentially single now. We smiled as if it were a good situation. Mark commented, "That's unfortunate. I specialize in separating married women from their husbands. That's my thing. I enjoy humiliating them and then making exquisite love to them, which the husband can never match." With that, he went to another table and asked a woman to dance. He appeared surprised when she declined his offer. We decided to leave before the situation reached its climax. Jim, please understand that while Linda has not apologized or expressed Remorse, I believe she is in great pain. As for myself, I'd like to apologize for my part in the events that occurred. I never imagined that things would turn out so badly. Linda and I are grateful to have each other's support at this time. Linda requested another outing the following Friday, but this time alone. I offered to look after the children once more. The children were asleep by 9 o'clock and Linda returned home alone at 10 o'clock. I had been preparing for the moment when she would bring someone home with her. Linda went straight to her room while I spent the rest of the night watching the news. There was a breaking news story about Mark Lavalier. He had been involved in an accident and was struck by a car in the parking lot behind Morrison's. The incident was a hit and run and the vehicle responsible had yet to be located. The reporter mentioned that Mark had suffered severe leg injuries. Hearing this news, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief, believing that it was fate's way of dealing with someone like Mark. The next day, Mark learned that he was having surgery for his injured knees in one foot. The doctor stated that his football career appeared to be uncertain and that he might require a walking aid. This was his contract year after finishing his rookie contract and he was expected to earn around $10 million per year despite his financial difficulties. I could not empathize with him. It's possible that an irresponsible spouse caused the accident. Emma, Tommy and Linda gathered for breakfast as a family. Linda appeared to be in better spirits, possibly adjusting to her new situation. I had a date with Jenna planned for later that night. In addition, I began dating a kind co-worker named Mary. However, nothing compares to what Linda and I had. We both agreed that the sense of loss would be with me forever. Reconciliation seemed unlikely in the near future, but I had occasional dreams about it while helping the kids with their breakfast. Linda looked at me and said, "Jim, could you help me with my car? I need a little help." "Sure, what is the issue?" I responded. "Last night, I accidentally hit a deer on the road. I need to replace the fender and headlights on my car. I don't want to take it to a body shop because the cost could be high. Also, I don't want to file an insurance claim because it may raise our premiums." She seemed worried. I looked into her captivating eyes and smiled reassuringly. Here is the next story. "Hi, my name is Dave. Instead, I will describe myself physically. I'd like to share my beliefs so you can better understand who I am. I am not an evil person and I did not enjoy what I just did. It was what my conscience demanded. My primary belief is in respect. Respect for oneself and others is essential. I will respect you unless you do something to jeopardize it. At this point, I will simply leave and not return. I believe it is everyone's responsibility to strive for personal improvement. While some may achieve more than others, as long as you put forth your best effort, I will respect you. Remember, if you disrespect me, you'd better watch out." Next, to respect. What I value the most is loyalty and trust. I will never lie or deceive those who I respect. I am unfailingly loyal, especially to those who deserve it. Take note of the careful wording. If you lose my trust, you forfeit loyalty and respect. I hold a strong belief in fairness. Good things should happen to good people, bad things to bad people. I'm also old-fashioned. If you wrong me, you will not have to deal with legal documents or courtrooms. However, you should exercise extreme caution when walking down any dark alleyways. If I shake hands on a deal and it doesn't go through, I'll check the obituaries. My name will be there. I believe that I am methodical, romantic, and loving. I firmly believe that men and women are equal, not only in words, but in my heart. I truly believe that a person's gender has no bearing on how I treat them or what I expect from them. This belief could be the motivation for my recent actions. Now let me explain my actions step by step, beginning with the beginning. My suggestion that Lorna, my wife of 7 years, keep some distance from her friend Jenny was not well received. Jenny moved nearby the previous year. Her husband Bill is a shift worker, whom I have only met a few times. I'm not sure why, but Jenny makes my palms tingle. I have a strong, instinctive feeling for her. However, I understand that it is Lorna's decision. She has few friends, but she is fiercely loyal to the ones she does have. Jenny dislikes me, and it's clear she's trying to influence Lorna. On several occasions I've entered the room, their conversation has abruptly halted. This has only made me more concerned about their friendship. The signs that my marriage was in trouble began to emerge. Little things that seemed insignificant at first started bothering me. For example, I was unable to reach Lorna on her days off and received evasive responses when I inquired about it later. Another indication was her difficulty making eye contact with me. I strongly believe in the saying that the eyes are the windows to the soul, and I've added my own twist. Sunglasses are the blinds. The biggest clue was our decreased intimacy, which went from at least twice a week to nothing overnight, with no intimacy in the previous 4 weeks. It was strange that on several occasions when I attempted to initiate affection, she appeared to agree but then changed her mind. It was as if a barrier had formed in her eyes, causing her to shut down emotionally. I asked repeatedly about the problem, but she insisted there was none. Frustrated, I suggested that you consider counseling. Lorna just turned away and started crying. After she finished, it appeared that she wanted to share something, but the barrier rose again. The most perplexing aspect of her behavior was its complete contradiction to a woman attempting to conceive her first child, unless an unwelcome thought entered my mind. What if she stopped considering me as a sperm donor and instead tested other men? This would explain why she wasn't as sexually frustrated as I was and why she was pulling away from me. However, guilt does not justify her actions. We had only tried for 2 months before she gave up. If she wasn't going to reveal her secret meetings, I'd have to find another way to catch her. Lorna managed our family finances, giving her more free time. I didn't want any unexpected expenses to show up on our statements, so I had to be cautious and keep any surveillance costs reasonable. So that's what I did. I paid cash for 2 small voice recorders that connected to a base station. A solid start. I figured if they didn't pick up anything, I could always try a GPS monitor later. I placed one recorder in the kitchen to capture that room from the living area. The second one went into our bedroom. I hid the receiver in the ceiling space, knowing Lorna would not go there because she is afraid of spiders. The only relevant conversation that the recorders captured about a week later perplexed me. Lorna did not appear to be cheating on me, but I was still unsure of her intentions. Lorna's recorded conversation took place in the kitchen during one of her days off. So Lorna, what do you think about that? I do not know, Jenny. It was extremely hot, but are you certain Bill enjoys it? He didn't look like it. As I previously stated, he doesn't particularly enjoy what I do at the time. But he knows he'll be treated to at least a week of mind-blowing sex. The only time I've seen him upset was when I misjudged the timing and got my period that night. Bill missed out and soaked for the entire week. I still don't understand how you can respect Bill for putting up with all of that. Jen, today was relatively calm. You should see what we normally do. I didn't want to embarrass Bill too much today because it was only your second time watching. The thrill I get when I see Bill tied in his chair with his little, well, in its cage and give him his choice for the day is indescribable. What are the options? It changes every time. The best one was when I told him that he would be able to taste the meats and products and choose whether he wanted them secondhand or directly from the source. Which one did he buy secondhand? Of course, he isn't disrespectful. After I finished cooking, I gently moved Bill's chair and sat in his lap. Wow, girl, I think I laughed 3 times in 5 minutes that time. I'll ask Bill if we can do something like that the next time you come. Oh, I need to leave. Bill is still occupied. The bedroom recording began slightly later with a faint buzzing noise and 2 excited giggles, indicating that whatever happened had piqued Lorna's interest and her toy received plenty of attention. Lorna had clearly witnessed something captivating between Jenny and Bill. But I couldn't quite understand everything. The only word that seemed to fit the conversation was no. Surely no one would tolerate that, right? Am I a little naive? The meat reference completely eluded me. I was also unsure where this was all going. I chose to wait and see. I only had to wait until next week for the next installment. Once again, it was my wife's day off and the action occurred in the kitchen. Wow, that was intense. You remember when you told Bill to stay still while that guy rubbed his well? Yeah. I asked Bill if I could do the second-hand or straight from the source thing again, but he declined. He only agreed to have me there because he believes he will get a chance with me later. No, that will not happen. Please don't deflate his bubble. If you do, your time with him will be up. Okay. How was your last week with Bill? It was fantastic as usual. After I left, I untied him and he looked after me as he always did. We then spent the remainder of the day in bed. I told you that the sex with the meats is amazing, but the week after with Bill is almost as good. It's like experiencing honeymoon sex all over again. There was a pause in the conversation. And the recording included the sound of a kettle boiling. So how are things going for Dave? The poor guy must be feeling impatient. It's been 6 weeks and I can tell you it's getting harder to say no to him. If it hadn't been for a useful tool, I might have reached my breaking point by now. These tools can provide temporary relief, but they don't completely satisfy in the end. I understand where you are coming from, but please remain calm. How about telling him that you're taking a break to strengthen your relationship? This may buy you some time. In a few more weeks, Dave might be open to suggestions. One idea is to do something with the turkey that makes it look like Dave. It won't be as enjoyable, but it will give you the time you require. No, Jen, I couldn't betray David. I care too much about him to disrespect him in that way. And there's that prenuptial agreement I mentioned earlier. If Dave discovered I had cheated, I would lose everything. I'm 39, Jen. If I don't have children now, I may never get the opportunity. I paused the recording. Thank you for your vote of confidence, Lorna. I particularly appreciate the comment about respect. However, it appears that you and I have different perspectives on disrespect. Yes, you're very wise to remember the prenup. The cheating party leaves with nothing. I could now see where this was likely to go, and I mentally resolved to set aside some time for myself to decide how far I'd let it go. I returned to the recording. I still do not know. As eager as Dave must be, I just can't see him going along with everything I'm thinking about pulling out. I cannot risk losing him for a little extramarital shit. It's difficult enough as is. Looking in his eyes, I see desire. It's simply not right. Have you been listening to what I'm saying, dear? It isn't just a small amount of disloyalty. It's the thrill of being in control. Having him sit there helpless and eager, knowing he will do anything you ask. As long as you ask, I'll keep you. Nothing like seeing your partner involved with someone else to bring out the competitive side in people. Everyone wants to be in control. Both Bill and my ex did it. Yes, they might protest for a while to maintain appearances. However, once their fragile self-esteem is restored, they always return for more. No, Jen, I have made up my mind. I do not want to jeopardize our future happiness. It is not worth it. Dave brought up counseling again this week. What's the challenge? Lorna, there is no challenge. Give him time to improve your chances. Then reveal it. You are not deceiving. Therefore, he has no reason to leave. Furthermore, the agreement does not go into effect. What is the worst thing that could happen? He declines. You've lost nothing. He will not want a divorce in which he loses his house. Half of the money must be paid to you as alimony, so there is no challenge, and you can have exciting moments for as long as you want. I tell you, friend, you simply cannot lose. Okay, Jennifer, I'll consider it. So make a decision soon or your waiting days will be over. The vibrator was given another session that afternoon. I was growing weary of the situation. It was time to take action. I wasn't sure how I'd react when their little act unfolded. I was becoming increasingly convinced that it would. Jenny was offering Lorna an opportunity that no ordinary man could match. At first, I thought the concept was completely alien to my tastes, but upon further reflection, I realized I had never given it much thought before. Perhaps watching Lorna get close in front of me would be entertaining. It was time to seek a resolution. When Lorna joined me in bed, I expressed my wish, but received the expected rejection. Lorna, have you ever heard about marital rights? No. What are they? These are a husband's rights to be intimate with his wife. So I'm asserting my right to decline. I mentioned contemplative earlier. After a moment, I added, if you continue to refuse me without providing a reason, will you allow me to seek satisfaction within our marriage? There was a sudden exclamation from the other side of the bed. No, absolutely not. You will not receive anything outside these walls. I should be able to meet your needs. Lorna suddenly realized the absurdity of her own statements. Her expression was a mix of pain, irritation, and bewilderment. She quickly exited the bed and left the room. I must speak with Jenny. I left her alone and went into the living room where I could hear mumbling from the kitchen phone area. She tiptoed back into the bedroom. Half an hour later, I assumed I had fallen asleep. She sat down beside me gently. I gave her 5 minutes to calm down. Lorna, I'm not sure what Jenny is telling you, but can't you see how this is causing problems in our relationship? She is my friend. Well, Lorna, I strongly advise you to speak with her and ensure she is not causing further problems in our marriage. I'm not sure what she's saying, but it's obvious it's not good for us. The following morning, I waited until Lorna left for work before climbing the ladder into the ceiling space. The previous night's late-night phone call was captured on the kitchen recorder. It recorded one side of the conversation, which began with Lorna discussing her call with me. She sounded desperate and I hoped she would reconsider. To say I was disappointed by the outcome is an understatement. Following Lorna's emotional plea, there was a pause. The voice then asked, Jen, are you sure about what you said the other day? Do all men resemble Bill, and if you push them hard enough, will they enjoy being subservient? Silence followed. So as you mentioned, I really have nothing to lose. Even watching you and Bill makes me very excited. Yes, I'll do it. But I can't keep doing this for much longer. Can we move the schedule up a bit? Silence. Right. I'll come over tomorrow night and we'll discuss tactics. Bye. The following day, the Smith household was unusually quiet. Lorna informed me after dinner that she was going to Jenny's. Are you going to break up with her? As I suggested, no, David. I grabbed her and forced her to make eye contact. Thank you, Lorna. She walked away from me without saying another word. I secretly went to Jenny's house, reflecting on the powerful influence desire had on me. It was dark, so I circled the house, looking for a place to see or hear what was going on inside. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a good vantage point, leaving me in the dark about the unfolding events. My loving wife returned the next day and I slept soundly. I remained in bed until Lorna left. This time I visited Jenny's house. I believe Lorna mentioned Jen in the context of our marital issues, so my visit would not raise any suspicions. Jenny opened the door, still in her dressing gown. She wanted to change clothes, but I assured her that my message would not take long. However, I never got past the porch. Jenny, I know you and Lorna are up to something. I suspect you're attempting to persuade her to do something she's not comfortable with. I want you to understand that I do not forget easily and I hold grudges. For your own safety, I recommend that you use your persuasive skills to talk her out of it rather than into it. The door closed in my face. Lorna returned to Jenny's house after enjoying a peaceful dinner. This time I chose to follow her. I approached the house. I noticed the kitchen light was turned on and the window was slightly open. I'd missed the beginning of their conversation, which appeared to be about my previous visit. I arrived just in time to hear, "No. This is great news, Lorna. I believe this demonstrates that he believes I am attempting to lead you astray. That means when you give your speech, he'll be off balance. Plus, he'll be so relieved that you won't cheat on him that he'll be eager to take our advice." Someone accidentally knocked over a small potted plant to avoid answering some awkward questions. They quickly exited the room. Lorna returned home and I was once again fast asleep. The following evening, I returned home to the delightful aroma of a delicious meal. Lorna worked hard to make the food both delicious and visually appealing. I was eager to learn about her culinary creations. Throughout the night, she chatted nonstop, filling the atmosphere with light-hearted conversation. I waited patiently for her, bringing up whatever was on her mind. As the night came to a close, it was time for bed. There was still no discussion to encourage her to open up. I snuggled up to her and gently squeezed her shoulders. She seemed to respond positively. For a moment before withdrawing, I asked, "Have I done anything wrong, dear? Please share your thoughts." I also proposed Lorna. "I believe we should consult a counselor." As expected, she became irritated. In the morning, I decided to alter our dynamic. I took the vibrator out of the bathroom drawer and removed the spring from the battery compartment. I wanted to level the playing field. The next 2 evenings were monotonous and the game lost its appeal. Jenny was present when I returned home from golf, but she quickly left. It was Saturday night, and I went to bed early, claiming that I needed to get up for church. Lorna joined me in bed. I turned off the light, hoping that the darkness would make her more open to conversation. Once she was settled, I asked, "Lorna, what's on your mind?" She was quiet, so I continued. "All right, it appears that you are having trouble sharing something with me. You've avoided closeness for the majority of the last 2 months, so I'm guessing that has something to do with it. Lorna, are you considering admitting that you have strayed from our relationship and are working up the courage to do so?" Lorna quickly responded. "Dave, how could you possibly think that? You know how much I care about you and would never do such a thing?" Dave persisted. Then please tell me what has been bothering you before I leave, or given the next time someone attempts to be friendly with me. Lorna became interested. Who has been trying to be friendly with you? Dave explained, it happens occasionally at work. I'm well out of shape and, to be honest, not bad looking. I doubt a week passes without someone attempting to get to know me better. Okay, Dave, just give me a moment and I'll share my thoughts with you. It took around 5 minutes. As I mentioned earlier, Dave, I have always been faithful to you and have no desire to be unfaithful. However, there is something I would like to investigate. More silence followed. I understand you don't like Jenny, but she's been telling me about some of the activities she and Bill do in their spare time, and they seem much more exciting than what we've been doing. Hold on, you have never expressed dissatisfaction with our relationship over the last 8 years? Yes, I know, Dave. You are a wonderful and supportive partner. And I am completely satisfied with what we have. Jenny then shared what she does, which she described as at least 10 times more enjoyable than what we do. I'd just like to ask if we could try it once or twice before we get serious about being responsible parents. Are you certain it's as good as Jenny describes? Or is she simply exaggerating? No. When I heard her describe it, it was clear from her enthusiasm that she enjoys it. I decided to overlook her minor error at the start of her response. So with some trepidation, I have to ask what you and Jenny have in mind for me. More awkward silence. Well, Dave, it's not that serious. Jenny shares intimate moments with others while Bill is nearby. Lorna explained, it is not about love. It is more of a shared experience. Because Bill is present during these events, it is not considered betrayal. So you're suggesting a trio experience, correct? No, Dave. In this story, you would not be the one making love to me. Instead, another man would. Jenny calls it simping. It's as if I'm giving someone else a gift while receiving another man's gift. I would like to enjoy my gift while you watch. After the other man leaves, we will reconnect by making love. Jenny claims that the aftermath is the best part for every lover I've had. I'd make love to Bill for at least a week. Dave, we have not done this since our honeymoon. Jenny suggests that if you are uncomfortable watching, you can leave for the night while I stay here. She believes that this should happen in our bed. It's as if you're demonstrating your love for me by allowing another man into our territory. Jenny thinks you should stay and witness everything. Lorna believes that if she stays, the man will understand. It's all about the physical side. However, if she leaves, she will be concerned about whether the guy was more experienced or had a stronger connection than her, or if she will develop feelings for him. After her speech, she remains silent. Dave reassures Lorna that if they continue, he will always be there for her. He asks how and when she expresses her love for him. Lorna claims that every time she returns to him, she demonstrates that he is her top priority and only true love. Dave then wonders if Lorna's love is like second-hand affection, to which she responds that she doesn't understand what he means. Do not worry about it, dear. My first impression isn't good. If we seem so incompatible and I'm not satisfying you enough, why don't we try something different? Like pursuing an open relationship or inviting someone to join us so we can all enjoy each other's company? No, David. The thought of you with another person does not sit well with me. It is not something I am comfortable with. Okay, let's bring in another person, but I promise not to get involved. I'll just be watching you as well. Yuck. Dave, I tried it once in college and it was sufficient for me. I don't want to go through that again. Have you considered all possible outcomes? Lorna? There is a risk of losing respect for one another, feeling inadequate when compared to others, or dealing with negative emotions resulting from the situation. Nobody could be a better partner than you, Dave, and Jenny thinks we have nothing to lose. Jenny, Lorna, have you considered all of the possible outcomes? Yes, Dave, I have, and I'm eager to try it. Could we? Lorna gently touched my half-erect area through my silk boxers, and it responded on its own. See, I'm eager to join your plan. This part of me hasn't been active in nearly 2 months. It lacks experience and wisdom, and it is currently eager to participate in any activity. Please, Dave, think about it a little bit. Okay, Lorna, there's no harm in considering it. Now, can we express our love for one another? No, Dave, I do not think so. Why the heck not? Simply look at it as a challenge to think faster. You realize that's not fair, right? Well, I do not agree. I just think we should get this done quickly and move on to the next step. Dave's newest golden rule: whoever has the initiative establishes the rules for initiative here. Read determination. That week, when I went to discuss Lorna's new toy collection, I noticed a unique accessory. Shame on you, Lorna. You neglected to mention that part. Well, I survived another 11 days. I am only human after all. It was Wednesday night and we were in bed again. Okay, Lorna, you win. We will do it your way, but don't blame me if things don't go as expected. I urge you to think about all of the possible consequences. Wow. Thank you, Dave. I'm thrilled to share this adventure with you. Can we start it on Friday? Definitely, my friend. But there's one small request: I'd appreciate it if you joined me in a light-hearted activity beforehand. Lorna agreed immediately, and we began our activity. After we finished, she said, Dave, I almost forgot to mention it earlier. Jenny suggested that you sit in a chair while I do my part. This will make you feel more at ease and secure, while also giving me a sense of responsibility and control. I looked at Lorna, surprised by her suggestion, but agreed to it. Jenny also mentions that calling each other playful names during the activity improves her overall experience. Lorna isn't sure why, but she wants to make sure that everyone has a good time. Lorna's excitement is obvious, but I gently hold her to maintain control. Lorna, can we take things slowly for this? I do not want to give up complete control for the first time. I'm not comfortable being tied to a chair, but I'm willing to sit in one and pretend to be tied, even if it means putting my hands behind my back. This allows me to occasionally use a video camera. What kind of video camera? Dave? We agreed that this would be a brief experience, and one of us might not enjoy it. So I decided to record it so we could watch it later. Okay, I will ask Jenny if that is okay. No, Lorna, do not ask Jenny. It's time to make your own decisions, accept responsibility for your actions. All right, Dave, we will proceed without tying you up. It would be more engaging for our audience if we could capture the moment you prove your love for me. Remember, we want to keep the overall context of the original text intact with no profanity or additional content. Regarding the trash talk, I understand your discomfort with us acknowledging your presence. Please feel free to continue our conversation as if we are unaware of your presence. This way, it will be less humiliating for you. We assume your relationship with your partner remains exclusive, or did it change in college? No, David, our relationship has remained exclusive since then. By this point, even my strength was struggling to keep Lorna from resuming her movements. Her perspiration had already filled my navel and was streaming down my side. I free the beast. I'm not particularly proud of my endurance the first time, but there were some unusual circumstances, 2 months of extreme blue ball circumstances. In my defense, Lorna reached her climax before I did. Go teamwork. The second and third were more impressive and worth bragging about. I was exhausted the following day. When I returned home the next night, we had a visitor. Jenny, she looked as proud as if she had just given birth to triplets. Well done, Dave. This is not something you will regret. It's the beginning of a new life for you both. Lorna gave Jenny a disapproving glance, but she ignored it. So, Dave, what will we do next? Jenny explained, I usually visit a different part of town. They will not recognize me. Then I approached the guys and explained what I am looking for. If they agree, I accompany them to the restroom and assess their appearance. I might give them a friendly pat or offer some advice to get a better idea. I wouldn't want to put in so much effort only to get less. Well, you know. I want this experience to be worthwhile. When they express an interest, I either invite them to my home or ask them to visit the following day. No, Jen, I cannot agree to that. If Lorna did that, I'd call it cheating. Why don't you just attend a potluck and bring home the first guy who says yes? Okay, Dave, you're in charge for now, so we'll do it your way. Good night. Lorna was clearly thinking about something after she left. What is it, Lorna? Jenny didn't want to ask, but she wanted to know if she could come over and watch. No, Lorna. That would be unacceptable. It's uncomfortable enough for me to sit there while you spend time with a stranger. I don't think I want to witness there. At the same time, sorry, sweetheart. I know she worked hard for this, but I couldn't stand it. You can show her the video later if you want. Now, how about we head upstairs and get you some practice in? Lorna agreed, and they went upstairs while undressing. I remembered the question I had thought of on my way home. Honey, will you buy more condoms or should I? Jenny says we cannot use condoms. What? Lorna, you stopped taking your pills 4 months ago. Yes, but my fertile period isn't for another 2 weeks. Why is Jenny saying you can't use condoms? Well, she says it is more. Jenny suggests that it would be more enjoyable for me if you saw me after a man had finished. She believes that this encourages husbands to be intimate with their wives as soon as possible, and as frequently as possible afterward, allowing their genetic material to take precedence over the other man's. I was initially concerned about health issues, but the more I thought about it, the more appealing the idea became. You imagine them looking at me as I lie back. Another man's seed trickling out of me. Oh, it gets me excited. If you're concerned about getting tested, I can get it done on occasion. No, Lorna, I insist. There are some health concerns circulating right now. We should avoid taking any risks. Okay, how about that closeness we came up here for? I am not in the mood anymore. All right, I agree. There are no barriers. Wow. Thank you, dear. Speaking of protection, would you mind using one tonight or practicing withdrawal? I want to feel refreshed for tomorrow. Just forget it. All right, good night. Lorna was so excited that she took Friday off from work. By the time I arrived home, the house was spotless and the bedroom was ready. Extra pillows, dimmed lights, a bedside lamp used as a spotlight, the whole works. Lorna was literally bouncing from one foot to the other with anticipation. She was dressed to impress when Jenny arrived to accompany her on their adventure. I reminded them that, given the travel time, I expected them back in an hour and a half. As the minutes passed, Lorna returned home after an hour and a half, accompanied by her chosen friend. In the meantime, I kept myself busy, which made the wait seem longer than it was. I even Checked to make sure the clock was still working properly. Jenny was nowhere to be found when I met Jeremy, a handsome but slightly anxious man who appeared to be about 10 years younger than Lorna and me. When I told him I was fine with the situation, he became more relaxed and eagerly anticipated Lorna's fantasy. Jeremy nodded as I explained the guidelines, assuring him that I posed no real threat, even though I was only pretending to be bound to the chair. I told Jeremy that Lorna thought the encounter would be more enjoyable if they both belittled me during their conversation. I hoped he understood my request that they treat me as if I were not present. When I turned on the video camera and asked Jeremy if he wanted to be recorded, he agreed. He caught me off guard when he asked if he could get a copy of the movie. Lorna was shifting from one foot to the other, making a subtle rubbing motion with her toned legs. This increased my excitement as I imagined her damp panties in the gusset area. After finishing the preparations, I said my goodbyes and entered the bedroom. Sitting in my strategically placed chair, I was unaware of the cage's existence and therefore felt no need to use it. I undressed because I knew Lorna desired it. I don't want to disrupt the flow by having her ask me to do it. The chair was positioned near the door, allowing a clear view of the bed. I turned on the camera and placed it on the arm of the chair, then crossed my arms behind me, eagerly anticipating the upcoming events. My dreams had been filled with these exact moments for the past few weeks, and I hoped they would soon come true. Jeremy and Lorna entered the room, excitedly greeting each other. Within moments, they began assisting each other in removing their clothing. Soon Jeremy's underwear was removed, revealing his erect but shorter and thinner member. Lorna tried to hide her disappointment, but it showed on her face. He acted quickly after removing his clothes. He quickly thrust into her mouth after guiding her to her knees with no tenderness. She instinctively wrapped her hand around the base of his member, limiting its depth. However, he appeared to be experienced as he quickly placed one hand over hers and the other on the back of her head. He took her hand off his member and used his other hand to keep her head still. He thrust into Lorna, widening her eyes and making her gag. She quickly pushed him away, covering her mouth with one hand, and dashed into the restroom. Retching and gargling could be heard shortly after. When Lorna returned, Jeremy wanted to continue their intimate moment. However, she was not interested in the same activity that he had planned. Instead, he gently laid her down on the bed and embraced her. Lorna's disappointment was palpable, as she wished for the playful banter they usually exchanged before their intimate moments. Despite her initial disappointment, Lorna sensed the warmth and connection between them. Their passion was palpable and they both enjoyed the intimacy they shared. Their time together continued. They had more playful and affectionate moments, resulting in a memorable experience for both of them. Oh wow, make it amazing. My husband simply does not do it for me anymore. Jeremy finished and rolled off my wife, and she quickly recovered from her disappointment. Throughout their brief encounter, she kept looking at me and the camera on the armrest of my chair. I couldn't help but wonder if her performance was intended for me or the camera, which flashed red. She sighed in relief as she rolled onto her side, reaching for the bedside cabinet and opening the top drawer. She took out a small bottle of lubricant. "Use it, my love," she whispered. "Take my last virginity." Jeremy, known for his incredible endurance, was clearly regaining his erection. He took the tube from her hand and began applying the lubricant to his arousal, while Lorna positioned herself on her stomach, knees tucked under, and raised her bottom. Her gaze turned to me. Her eyes were a mix of desire and something unfamiliar. But her lust was clear. There was also an unknown emotion. One thing was clear. This was her moment of triumph. If I hadn't realized it before, I do now. She nearly giggled as she spoke excitedly. about celebrating our love and connection. You can thank my husband for proposing this idea. I would not have considered it if he hadn't mentioned it the other day. Come on, partner. Let us explore a one-of-a-kind moment that my husband has yet to experience. Jeremy carefully placed Lorna's delicate band on her finger before gently entering her. Lorna, overcome with emotion, forgot about her acting and burst into tears. Jeremy, either misinterpreting her cries for excitement or simply motivated by passion, continued his energetic movements. Lorna attempted to push him away, but her limited strength and awkward position made it difficult. Eventually she gave in to his persistent actions. After reviewing the video footage, Lorna appeared to be looking at the narrator with desperate eyes. The narrator had fled, unable to bear the scene. Lorna begged for help. "Dave, this is too much." I was standing outside the bedroom door trying to block out her anguish and hoping it would stop. Deep down I knew I needed to support my partner. The only way I could bear the agony was to tell myself she hadn't been my partner for weeks. I waited for the right moment. It appeared that Jeremy was on the verge of his second peak. I had changed back into my work suit while I was out of the room as per my mental script. I hurried back into the room and dashed to her side of the bed. Just as Jeremy reached his second peak, I yelled, "Lorna, what's going on?" In my best Russell Crowe voice, "Who is this? Get out of my house, jerk." Following my words, a comedy of errors unfolded as confirmed in the video. Jeremy's expression quickly shifted from happiness to confusion, then fear sets in. He untangled himself from my wife and leaped out of bed, grabbing his clothes. He nearly broke the sound barrier as he left the room. Lorna's temporary relief turned to confusion. Torn between needing to be in two places at once, I followed Jeremy. Before leaving, I snapped at Lorna. "Just stay here, you dishonest person." As I approached him, he was already downstairs, quickly changing into his clothes. His eyes remained filled with apprehension. I watched him finish dressing and then leisurely walked over to him. I gently placed one hand around his neck and guided him against the wall. I made sure he could still breathe comfortably. He looked up at me, his fear replaced by dread, and one hand restrained him. I opened his wallet with one hand and declared his name and address aloud. Once I had his full attention, I whispered, "Do you remember this young man? Maintain your distance from married women. I could have punished you, but I will be lenient at some point. Lorna might ask you to testify in court. Your story will be that you met her at a social event. You accompanied her back here and were caught in the act when her husband unexpectedly arrived. He asked you to leave. Remember that he only had to try 3 times to get it right. I am not a harsh man, so I will suspend your sentence for 7 years. But if you say anything else during that time, I guarantee you will regret it. It will be a lasting consequence." I let him leave, and to my surprise, he didn't leave immediately. I shook his hand and said, "Jeremy, it has been a pleasure doing business with you." His puzzled expression was amusing as he created another sonic boom, this time hitting the front door. Soon after I heard tires screeching. Down the road, I walked casually back up the stairs to the bedroom. Lorna hadn't moved. Still lying on the bed, a small stain on the top sheet from her wide-open legs. If I had been as aroused by humiliation as she appeared to be, my erection could have been powerful enough to knock down baby seals. However, I felt as limp as overcooked pasta in light of our 8-year relationship. I felt I owed her an explanation. "For the record, dear, do you realize that not once in the last 2 days have you asked for my opinion on your little plan? If you had, I hope I would have been honest enough to tell you that just thinking about it made me disappointed and upset. I know Jenny told you that this was a great idea because you would be able to embarrass me later, being verbally humiliated and emotionally damaged. Lorna, which of us has been humiliated? I watched her face turn stunned as my words sank in. Tears formed in her eyes. I said nothing for a few minutes while she processed what had happened. Her face eventually settled back into a confused expression. What has all this been about, Dave? So, dear heart, when I realized our marriage was beyond repair, I pretended to agree with your plan to make me feel betrayed despite the fact that you deserved nothing from our marriage. I had to find a way to make it appear that you had broken your vows and trigger the infidelity clause in our prenuptial agreement. It took me 3 days to realize I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was execute your plan and use my camera to capture the moment. I was hoping you'd go too far and make the video as bad as possible. The unexpected throat action was an added bonus. I was considering your offer to not be present tonight, but I decided to see how you would try to destroy me with such zeal. This experience has strengthened my resolve to leave you with nothing and no chance of changing my mind. You understand how easily I can be swayed. Lorna's gaze shifted back and forth between me and the camera. She finally understood the significance. However, I was caught off guard when she grabbed the camera by the strap and dashed to the restroom. I heard the toilet flush shortly after, and I was certain that the innocent SIM card was on its way to the sewage plant. I checked my pocket to ensure that I still had the SIM card I had removed earlier. The one with the studs had permission to film when the bathroom door opened. I couldn't see Lorna's face. I concentrated on removing the concealed camera from the bookshelf. The camera had been carefully positioned. The ideal view showed the entire bed without exposing the chair or the entrance. I pondered the recent events. Had the performers ever communicated directly with the person in the humiliation chair? Perhaps on 2 occasions, I considered how 2 parts of the soundtrack might be affected. I was wondering when the batteries would run out. I hope no one digs deeper and discovers that it is connected to the power outlet. Lorna finally gave up after seeing me pick up the second camera. I felt a need to defend myself. For the record, Lorna, I truly believe I treated you with the utmost respect and love until you began to plan against me under Jenny's direction. I would have been delighted to raise our children and live a happy life together. I'm not sure when you made a wrong turn, but you did, without question, a piece of advice for your future relationship. If you're going to conspire with a friend, don't do it in front of a $249.95 listening device. I picked up the envelope from the same shelf as the camera and handed it to Lorna. She unintentionally lifted the flap and removed the divorce papers. After observing her gaze linger on the pages for a moment, I gently interrupted her thoughts. Indeed, Lorna, our relationship is nearing its end. I will be leaving for the evening and I would appreciate it if you had already left by the time I returned. I'm grateful for the 8 years we've spent together, which have been mostly enjoyable, but I've reached a point where I can't tolerate certain behaviors. This decision was made about 3 weeks ago while I was away. Please take some time to gather your clothing and personal belongings. I respectfully request that you do not attempt to contest the divorce or its terms. If you choose to do so, I will be obligated to show a specific family home video to your parents, other relatives, friends, and church members. This video shows you in an embarrassing situation, being disrespected and making derogatory remarks about me. Please understand that Jeremy will not be supporting you in court. His primary concern is his personal safety. Lorna did not look well and I had to lean in to hear her whisper, but we had already decorated the nursery. A part of me broke down when I heard that comment. How self-centered had she become, given that my hopes for a happy family in the near future had been dashed? Perhaps you should listen to your next spouse when he advises you to choose your friends more carefully. Give my regards to Jenny. I definitely will. With that, I left the room, descended the stairs and walked out the front door thinking. Note to self, the next spouse should be saner and smarter. I could have just said no. Lorna expressed a desire to transform me into something I did not want to be. No. Her longing was so strong that it would eventually be fulfilled. Furthermore, a significant portion of the disrespect was inherent in the request itself. Nobody enjoys being pressured. Only then did I refocus on my strategy. There was still one loose end to tie up for the clever woman who had started all this. I knew exactly where she would be and I didn't need to look through the partially open bedroom curtain to find her. Understanding her as I did, I was confident she would be unable to resist spying on my humiliation. It was her reward after all. Her months of dedication resulted in her holding the pickaxe handle I had placed near the front door. I started walking around the house. To my surprise, she was not at the bedroom window. Instead, she was hidden among the bushes near the door. She was clearly waiting for me to leave so she could collect Lorna's remnants. I looked at her and she noticed the tool in my hands. She understood the implications of her impending predicament. She expected her video camera as well as her watch and rings to be gone. As if it had been stolen, I continued to look into her eyes. Even in the dim light, I could see the exact moment she realized that my only options were to kill her or keep her promise of secrecy. Hello, my name is Dave and I believe that everyone should be treated with respect and fairness. I believe that everyone, regardless of gender, deserves equal pay and opportunities. Trust, honesty, and respect are the most important things to me. If anyone attempts to undermine these values, I will not hesitate to distance myself from them. I believe that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to those who make poor decisions. I am not a malicious person and I take no pleasure in causing harm to others. However, I do not claim to be satisfied with every situation I face. Regarding my knowledge, I enjoy learning about a variety of topics, including conjugal rights and other aspects of marriage. I believe that continuous learning is critical for personal development and understanding of the world around us. In the past, people required special permission from the king to engage in sexual activity. This permission was granted by the king's representatives and bears the names of a man and a woman. They could only be intimate together. They were given permission to marry by the king. This phrase eventually evolved into the concept of marriage. During ancient Saxon times, the bride's father was responsible for providing his new son-in-law with meat for 28 days following the wedding. Meat is made from honey and this tradition was previously known as the honeymoon. On a bride's wedding day, the father would throw one of his daughter's shoes at the couple. This act represented the transition of responsibility for her well-being from him to her new spouse. Now you understand why shoes are frequently seen tied to the back of a wedding car. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, leave a comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.